Just as Heidi said, I want to thank everybody again for taking the time today. I know everyone's very busy, so it means a lot to everybody here in attendance. And again, it's a fairly decent sized crowd today. So again, big thank you to everybody for again taking the time out of your day here. So just a little bit really quickly here, I'm just going to share my screen with everybody just so you can kind of see what the game plan is today. So I have a small presentation prepared for us with a small question and answer and demo section right after. So for today, essentially, I just want to introduce everybody to Microsoft 365. So you should all be able to see this little presentation screen here. Yeah, Heidi?
For those who are unfamiliar, you may want to change your view from gallery to not speaker view, and that way you'll be able to see his presentation more largely. And you can even drag the faces over a little bit more to increase the size of the screen if that assists.
Yeah. It's mostly visual representation, so if it is a little bit smaller, again, I do apologize, but it's mostly just guidelines to keep me on track as we're talking. So everybody can see this all right then? Perfect. Alrighty, so yeah, my name is Jake from Umbrella IT Services. So we specialize in creating different cloud services and helping associations like the VBGA transition over to these cloud services. So I've done this for over 4,000 firefighters working with the BC Professional Firefighting Association. We're working with Alberta and Saskatchewan as well. A little bit delayed due to COVID, and I've done this with over 24 private businesses. So it's very part and parcel for me at this point, and I'm very excited to share this software and these solutions with you folks moving forward. And yeah, so without any further delay, I'm going to kind of jump into this here. So the first question that I always get whenever I am introducing folks to Microsoft 365 is, what is Microsoft 365? And the three main areas that's very important to focus on is Microsoft 365 is a collection of cloud-based productivity tools that will allow you to connect and collaborate with each other, as well as create documents and files and access these files anywhere in the world. So some of the tools that Microsoft equips us with to connect with each other are Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft To Do, Bookings, Forms, and Planner. We're going to be highlighting Outlook and To Do for today. And we're going to be focusing on Teams to really help everybody communicate a little bit more. But the big stars of today's training session are Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint. So these are the connection-based tools. In terms of creation, I'm sure everybody is familiar with Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. Those are going to tie in very nicely to Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint. So when it comes down to creating things and collaborating and working together in this new system, we're going to be using familiar tools like Excel and Word to do so. And when it comes to accessing these files, we're going to be using two new programs called Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint. So Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint are tools that are accessible via the internet or on your computer. So you're going to be able to access all of the files that we're going to be creating and managing and sharing with each other, either on the web, on your smartphone, on your iPads or tablets, as well as on your computers in a very familiar format. There's not a big change that's going to be happening here. It's not a total interface overhaul. It's going to be something that is very familiar to most folks. And Microsoft has done a great job of creating all of these tools in a very intuitive fashion. So there is a very accessible design to all of these solutions. So the two superstars here that I want to highlight today are Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint. So on the left-hand side, we've got Microsoft OneDrive. And what Microsoft OneDrive does is it operates as your personal online storage solution. So if you have any files or folders or working documents that you're using that are private, you're going to want to be keeping these files inside of OneDrive. This allows, yeah, Heidi?
For the benefit of any staff who haven't heard, I'd just like to reiterate how we wish to use OneDrive is for your personal private files that do not need to be inherited by another. So that is your half-completed timesheet, your expense report that you're working on, a draft email that you've yet to send, maybe the performance review that you just did with the executive director, or the draft that you're doing. But anything that is a permanent organizational file will be in SharePoint. Thank you, and back to you.
Yep. So yeah, as Heidi just mentioned, Microsoft OneDrive is your personal storage solution. So if there's any private working files that you're using, you're going to want to be storing them inside of OneDrive. If you're working on something on your computer locally, we can set up OneDrive to back up your desktop, etc. But if you're just working inside of the web, it's very easy to open up the OneDrive app and create, manage, and share your files from OneDrive. And again, OneDrive would be your personal private storage. SharePoint is the cousin of OneDrive. It has the same feature set. It has the same backup functionality. It has the same number of benefits, but it is a shared directory for people to be able to access files together. So for example, we've set up departmental storage right now for departments such as development and marketing and communications, board of development, and all of the different subsects of the board that exist. You will be able to collaborate and share files with each other instantly inside of those files folders. So I'm going to be demoing that for you folks in a little bit here. Another couple of benefits that both of these programs add is something called version history and the activity bar. So version history is something that allows us to review any changes that have been made to a working document. So if you have a budget that's been around for about a year in a Microsoft Excel sheet, you're actually able to click one button and review all of the changes that have been made to that budget over the course of the year. You're able to see who made the changes, when they made them, and they can even leave notes to let you know why they made these changes. So again, it's a very, very beneficial tool in terms of data recovery, in terms of accessing data, in terms of keeping up to date with your team. So again, these are just the new file servers, if you will. These will be replacing thumb drives. These will be replacing file servers. And this is a very secure, accessible way to make sure that your data is available for everybody to collaborate on. The next little team here that we're going to be focusing on is the creation team. So we will be skipping over OneNote today. It is accessible to you if you do want a note-taking application. But the two that we're going to be focusing on is Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. And again, I will be demoing the version history for both of these. We will be going over templates for both of these. And I'm going to be highlighting some of the AI-powered queries that you can input into these now as well. So Microsoft Word will help us with grammar and spelling and all these kind of things now. And Excel will help us review budgets and figure out costs and these kind of things in plain English. You don't really need to know macros that much anymore. So I'm going to be going over these two as well. And again, most folks will be familiar with these. And if you're not, we're going to be going over some basic use cases with those as well. And the final things that we're going to be reviewing today are Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Teams. So I just want to make sure that everybody is familiar with Microsoft Outlook before we leave and how to look at your emails, your contacts, and your calendars. And we also want to make sure that people are able to access Microsoft Teams should they want to. This will be a cherry on the sundae, if you will, and will not be the main focus of what we're doing, but I will just include it so people know that it is there and they can use it if needed. So we can move into the demo here. So the very first thing that I want to show everybody today is going to be Microsoft OneDrive. So later on, sometime in the coming days here, you will receive an invitation to your Microsoft account. And the way that that will work is it's going to bring you to a website called portal.office.com. And this will be our new home here. So I hope everybody can see this okay. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And essentially this portal.office.com is the system that we're going to use to access all of our applications. On the left-hand side here, you can see I have my little home button to bring me home. I have Microsoft Word, I have Microsoft Excel, I have OneDrive, and I have my Outlook. If I want to see any other applications, just above these, I have this little 3x3 grid here. And I'm able to access any other applications that I may need and any documents that I've been working on recently. So again, if I wanted to access anything that's not in my quick access bar on the left-hand side here, I'm going to be able to click the 3x3 grid up in the top left corner. And then I'm going to be able to see any other apps that may interest me, such as the calendar, Teams, etc. So if I open up the all apps option here, you can see I have a great deal of other apps that are accessible to me. We will not be focusing on these today. We might do a follow-up session in a couple of months if people are interested in these. And I do recommend that if this is of interest, you can go around and play with these different apps and see if they benefit you. A great deal of organizations like yourselves and private businesses do find them to be tremendously valuable, but again, not the focus for today. So without any further ado, I will kind of jump into this here. So the first thing that we want to talk about today is Microsoft OneDrive. So again, for me to be able to access Microsoft OneDrive using the web, on the left-hand side here, we'll notice that I have Microsoft OneDrive. And if I click on this OneDrive icon, it's going to open up Microsoft OneDrive for me. And I can see in here, I have my personal OneDrive files that are linked to the Van Dusen Umbrella IT administrator account. And I'm able to access these different folders and files that I have in here. So for example, if I wanted to interact with this interface, I'm going to go over the left-hand side again first. So on the left-hand side here, I do have this 3x3 grid again. So if I wanted to jump from OneDrive over to SharePoint or into something else, I can click the 3x3 grid. And then I can select a different application. If I wanted to look at my files, specifically the working files that I'm working on, I can simply click on My Files, and you can see that it's opened up this menu, and I have access to everything that I'm currently working on. Below that, I have the Recent Files. So this will show me everything that I've been working on inside of my files. If I'm recently working on a document with Paul or with Heidi, I'm going to be able to open up my recent folder and it'll display all of those files and folders for me. I don't need to go digging around looking for those files in their folders. If I click on Shared, this will show me any files and folders that have been shared with me directly. So again, if Heidi and I were working on a file or a spreadsheet that we weren't quite ready to put into our development or into our marketing or into these other department folders inside of SharePoint, I am going to be able to share a file with Heidi so we can work on it together privately. And I can access those files underneath the shared option here. Below that, I have my recycle bin. So if I were to delete anything or something were to be accidentally deleted, I am going to be able to recover that file or permanently delete it via the recycle bin. Below that as well, I have something called a shared library. And the shared library is the shared files that we're talking about inside of SharePoint. So this VBGA files folder here is where I can access our SharePoint information. So again, it's all in one nice place. If I want to access recent files, I can jump over to recent. If I want to access shared files, I can jump over to shared. If I've deleted something, I can access it in my recycle bin. And if I want to jump over to SharePoint, I have this VBGA files here, which we'll get into later. Now, focusing again on the OneDrive interface up at the top here, we've got a couple of buttons that I want to focus on. One of these is the New option. So I'm going to be able to click on New, and I'm able to create a new folder, Word document, Excel, PowerPoint presentation, OneNote notebook, or form. So if I wanted to create a new Word document, for example, I can simply click on the New button up here, and then I can click on Word document. So again, very intuitive. It's a big blue button. They make it very, very simple for us to use. So I can just open up this Word document, make it a little bit easier to see here. And I'm now able to get to work on this Word document that I've created. So if I end up writing here a test message, I can write test message, and I can go ahead and hit the enter key again, do a break line, and I can write this as a test, and I can just edit this as I would a normal Word document. The only things that have really changed inside of this are my abilities to collaborate and my ability to view version history with other folks. So let's say that I wanted to share this with Heidi or with Steven, for example. I could click on the share button up here in the top right corner. This again, big blue button. And it says here, people in the Vancouver Botanical Gardens Association with the link can edit this file. And then I can enter a name or email address. And I have a little pencil next to this. And I can add a message. So for example, now, if I were to send this off to Heidi, I can add a message to Heidi that says, hey, Heidi, this requires your review. I can leave this, so I'll say your input. I can leave this for her to review. And I can simply send this off now. And she's going to get an email notification that says that I've shared a file with her and she can access it. She'll also be able to reference this underneath the shared section inside of OneDrive that we talked about earlier, underneath shared with you. So I'm not ready to share this with Heidi just yet because I want to show everybody a more advanced way of doing this as well. So let's say that I've shared this with Heidi. That's the only person I want to share it with. If I wanted to share it with Steven as well, I can type in the beginning of his email address or his name and it'll auto-populate. But let's say that I don't want Steven and Heidi to be able to edit this document. I just want them to be able to view it. Maybe they just need to reference it. I would be able to click this little pencil here that says can edit, and I can change it to can view instead of can edit. So again, this is a very secure way to be able to share things internally or externally with folks. If I need to be able to just share something with somebody, I don't need to send them an email anymore, have them edit the document, email it back to me. I make my changes. I edit it back to them. We have 6 versions of a working document scattered across our emails. We forget which one is the one that I needed because it's actually the one that's on a USB stick somewhere. This allows us to have one document stored in one place that we can work on together. So it's very important to make sure that, again, we are considering these permissions when we're sharing things with people. So all that I need to do to be able to share a Word document that I'm working on is click the share button up in the top right corner. I can type in the email of the people I want to share it with. I can choose what permissions they have. I can enter a message for them if they need it. And then I can click the send button here. So that's now been shared with Heidi. Now, if I wanted to share this again with somebody, let's say Steven, I can simply click the share button, enter in Steven's email address, and I can see up here it says people in Botanical Gardens with the link can edit. If I click on that, it comes up with a number of other options here as well. I can change that to anyone with the link, people with specific access, or specific people. And again, I'm able to change things so that I can tell people that they are allowed to edit or they are not allowed to edit. And you can see when I check and uncheck this box, these 2 options down here change. If I allow editing, I'm able to open in review mode only. And I'm going to go over that in a minute. But review mode only is what we'll be using to collaborate with each other. I'm going to show you guys review mode only in just a second here. If I uncheck allow editing, I have the ability to block the download of this. So no one will be able to print this document. They won't be able to download this document. And I'll get an alert if they try to do any of those things. Obviously, this doesn't stop people from taking pictures with their phones and that kind of stuff, but it will prevent them from getting the original document. So what I want to do is allow editing and open in review mode only. And again, I'm going to apply this. I'm going to share it with Steven. And Steven will now have access to this document. If Steven or Heidi were to jump into this document, I would see a little HJ for Heidi and an SS for Steven that would come up in this top right corner next to the share button to show me that they're working inside of the document. And if I wanted to review a document that they shared with me, as I talked about review mode a few seconds ago, I'm able to click on this other button that they've added, and they've added a bold font to it called editing. So right now I'm in editing mode. I'm able to go in here. I can delete the test message. I can leave it to say this is a test. I can do many things inside of here. And I can see Heidi has written something in here as well now. Let me just refresh. I use a very private browser that does block some of these add-ons from happening. So as I can see here, new changes were made while I was away, and Heidi's been doing some editing. And you can see here, I can see where her cursor is. I can see that HJ, Heidi, is in the page. And Heidi, if you just want to highlight this as a test for me, please. Then we can see as well that Heidi's cursor moves. I can see that she's highlighting things, and I'm able to do this with her in real time. And again, this is the first time that Heidi and I have done this. And again, it's very, very intuitive. She's able to do that. I can see where her cursor is, and I can see the things that she's doing. Now, if I wanted to get rid of this highlight that she's made, but I don't want to edit the document, I want to review it because Heidi is the one that's going to take lead on this document. I can click on where it says editing mode, and I can go over to where it says reviewing. And I can see that Heidi is writing again, and I'm able to go over to where it says adding my thoughts, and I can highlight this out, and I can say adding my considerations. Oh, 1 second here. There we go. I think I have insert mode on. There we go. Yeah, I think I have insert mode on. Technical difficulties.
Oh, this is something I would do.
Yeah, it's my mouse is glitching out for some reason. Let me just refresh it. Yeah, it keeps throwing me back there.
And Jake, when you have a moment, I see
Yep.
that Denis left a question comment.
Okay, I can hop on that right away. This is so
Sure.
long.
Of course, I'll read it to you when it works for you.
Perfect, thank you. Anyways, I'm going to stop fighting my mouse here. I'm not sure what's going on. I will just highlight everything and change out the word considerations. So because I've changed this over here, Heidi would now be able to review this stuff and make her approval or rejections of these. If people are collaborating on a document together, again, it's very nice that we're able to go through a document and just make some slight changes to things. Again, you can imagine if this is meeting minutes notes, if you're drafting a proposal or a budget, or if you're working on a more serious document, it's very easy to be able to approve or reject these. So I can see that Heidi has deleted this. I'm going to undo her deletion here. And what I can do when I'm reviewing things or when I'm editing things is I can go over to the review section. And when I click on review, I have the ability to accept or reject revisions that people have made. So if Heidi makes a revision using the reviewing section on anything that I write out, I'm going to be able to approve or reject the changes that she's made. So I'm going to just go ahead and check the chat here to see what folks were saying. My apologies for missing that. Yeah, so absolutely. In terms of the online version of Word and Excel, there are some limitations on there, and this comes down to the capitalistic nature of Microsoft, and they want you to spend that extra $9 a month to get the professional license that allows you to use it on the desktop. So that's essentially what Microsoft has done, is they've purposely handicapped the online version to be able to work on more low power devices, as well as giving them the ability to use them on the app if you would so choose. But they do strip down the functionality on the web just to make people spend that extra $9 a month and get the more feature-rich versions on their desktops. But for what 99% of folks are doing in terms of editing documents, collaborating on things, again, macros still work. As you folks can see, looking underneath the home tab, I still have all of the options that I'm looking for normally. They just take away a couple of the additional features there that are more for professionals and people that are looking for heavy duty use cases. Yeah, I hope that answers your question there, Denis. Okay, and thank you, Noreen, for your input there as well. So without any further ado here, I think we can check out something called version history in terms of the document here. So Heidi and I have made some changes. Let's say I want to find out what we were writing before we did these revisions. I'm going to be able to jump up here to where it says document saved, and I can click on that. And this allows me to change the name of the document. And then I'm going to be able to click on the version history here. And I can see here 9 minutes ago that the Van Dusen admin account created a new document. And I can see here it was modified by the Van Dusen admin account. And I can see that Heidi made some modifications as well. And then I can see a couple of other duplicate additions were made as well. And again, I can just kind of jump around here and view all of these different versions. So if I wanted to go back to when Heidi was originally adding her thoughts, again, just imagine that this was a more productive document, a larger document that people have been revising and editing, like a budget or meeting minutes, etc. I'm going to be able to either save a copy of this version history or restore this older version. So in this case, I'm going to save a copy of it, and I'm just going to call it Heidi Jake collaboration file original copy. And then it gives me the option to save this to a location. And if I click on that, again, it goes right into my OneDrive. And if I wanted to save it into my SharePoint, I would be able to just click on VBGA files and then choose what department I would share it to so that I could collaborate with others from my department in. But for now, we're going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to share it with my personal OneDrive and save it in there. And that's it. So I hope everybody feels all right so far with this word editing and the collaboration features inside of Microsoft Word. It's very, very similar inside of Microsoft Excel. We're going to be going over that shortly. But that is how I would be able to share a file with somebody inside of OneDrive, is I can simply, again, click on the file, share it once it's been opened, and be good to go. So now that we know how to create a document inside of OneDrive by clicking the new button and either creating a new folder, Word document, Excel, or PowerPoint, I want to focus on the content inside of OneDrive. So you can see here I have a number of folders. I have a couple of documents that I have here. And what I want to do is I really want to share this Heidi Jake collaboration file with Steven because the content is very pertinent and important and he can't live without it. So what I need to do is highlight my mouse over any of these files and folders that I want to interact with. And I can see on the right-hand side here, I've got these 3 dots. And this is kind of the key to Microsoft. If you ever want to do anything with any of their systems online, I can simply click the 3 dots. So I'm going to go ahead and click the 3 dots. And I get this little sub menu that says open in browser and open in app. So more to Denise's question earlier about the limited functionality through the web, if he did need to do something in the app on his computer or on his smartphone or tablet, I can simply click open and then open it in the app on my computer. But if I'm like, again, 99% of users, I can just click open in browser and it's going to open up this file for me and I can get to work on it right away. So that's the open option. If I wanted to preview, I can go ahead and click on preview. And again, this gives me the option to preview the document. You can see it's explaining the Word viewer to me. So again, very intuitive. They do give you a lot of instructions as you use this for the first time. And I'm going to be able to open this document again in Word on my computer or Word online. I'm going to be able to share this document with anybody that I see fit. I'm going to be able to copy a link to this document to share it with a group of people. I can print it, I can download it, I can delete it, and I can even review the version history again. So if I wanted to go back in time and look at the edits that Heidi and I had made, I can do that as well. And if I want to get out of here, I can click the X. I can also go ahead and share, copy the link, or manage access. Now, I'm going to show everybody the differences between these 3 things because they are essentially the same task, but with a different level of security and oversight. So if I want to share this file, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I can go ahead again and click the 3 dots, and then I can click share, which again, it's Microsoft, so they've made this slightly more complicated than it needs to be. If I click share, it comes up with this window here, and it's the same window we looked at earlier when I was sharing things with Steven and Heidi. I can choose if I want to share this with anyone with the link, if I want to share it to people with specific access, if I want to share it with specific people, if I want to allow them to edit things, etc. I can also choose if I want to add a message and what level of permission they have, if they can edit or view things. So again, very straightforward. This sharing functionality allows me to share files with people via a link. So it creates a link to this file and allows them to access it. So they can access it through the link. When I copy a link, it's the same thing, but I'm just taking the link that I can then distribute however I see fit. The way that I would like everybody to share things is through the manage access option. So if you're ever sharing things with people, it's very important to use manage access and not share. And I'd again like to take a second to thank Microsoft for making that unnecessarily complicated. But you can simply click the 3 dots and click on manage access to be able to give people access to files. So what I'm going to do is click on manage access here. And we'll notice here that it says links giving access, and there are no sharing links for this item. So I haven't shared this item with anybody. There's no links. And I am the only person with direct access to this. What we want to do is give Heidi and Steven direct access to this. So I'm going to be able to click on this little plus button here on the right-hand side. And then I would be able to type in Heidi and Steven. And I can choose again. Can they edit? Can they view? What message do I need to send them? Should I be sending them an email notification about this file? And then I can go ahead and grant them access. And what you'll notice after I share this file with them is that they show up underneath the Manage Access tab. So I can see here Heidi and Stephen both have editing permissions. Now, when I share things with somebody, if I click share here, and I'm going to share this with Paul, just to pick on Paul a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and share this off with Paul. And what we'll notice is that Paul doesn't show up inside of this direct access folder. I can't recognize that Paul has access to this folder by looking at this. It's very hard to audit the permissions. What I can see is that a link was created that is now being shared with Paul. So again, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And if this link gets sent off to somebody that I don't know, they will be able to get access to this, and you can anonymously access this file without my knowledge. And again, it would just show up as anonymous user. So again, very important to make sure that we're avoiding sharing links with people, and we want to be giving them direct access so that we can have better oversight and better security over these files. So again, the way to do that would be clicking the 3 dots, clicking on Manage Access, clicking the little plus button, and then entering the name or the group of people that we want to share this with. Now, again, this is going to be a very limited procedure because I would very rarely be sharing my private OneDrive files with other people. We're going to be collaborating 90% of the time inside of SharePoint together, working inside of our departmental folder. But just so everybody is aware, that is how you're able to share your private OneDrive files with everybody. Now, the only other options that we have inside of OneDrive is the ability to download files, delete files, move them elsewhere, copy them elsewhere, or rename them. We can also look at the version history down here, and we can take a look at the details of the file. Now, if I wanted to look at the details of the file, I can go ahead and click this little I button up in the top right corner here. And this actually shows me what's gone on in here. So I can see there's been 6 views of this document. I can see that Stephen, Heidi, and myself all edited this file. I can click on Stephen's name to get all of his contact information. I can click on Heidi's name to do the same. I can see I created the file 18 minutes ago. 8 minutes ago, I renamed it. And then Stephen edited the file about a minute ago. If I want to see more details, I can scroll down here and I can see where it's located. I can see the type of file and the date that it was modified. So again, if you're working as part of a team, it's very convenient to be able to click on that little I button, and then I can see who is asking it. And I can see Stephen was writing testing, Stephen got the doc, which is great. Now, that's essentially it in terms of OneDrive when it comes to creating files, managing files, and sharing files. Heidi, is there anything that you'd like to see covered? And does anybody else have any questions or anything that they'd like me to clarify about this before we move into SharePoint? Because the SharePoint is going to have a bigger learning curve.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jake. So there's one thing I just want to reiterate to people, and Jake, please correct me if I'm wrong. What we just learned about collaboration here that Jake showed us in OneDrive using Word is the same approach that we'll take in SharePoint. And seeing the majority of us will be working in SharePoint to do collaborative and final type work. That will be the vehicle where you're doing most of the sharing, because OneDrive will be for those personal and temporary type documents. But no, that was great information. That was really helpful. I do see that Noreen Kimberly has a question. She says, I've been using 365 for years and use OneDrive. I hope this will operate independently of my own business.
Yep, absolutely, Noreen. So this will absolutely operate independently of your own business. If you decide to sync this to your computer, I'm sure you're already familiar with the little OneDrive logo that shows up on the left-hand side of your screen. I'll be demoing that in a minute here. As soon as we're done with the web, I'm gonna jump over into the computer stuff in a minute. But you will notice if you sign into OneDrive with this, you'll have a secondary OneDrive folder underneath your existing one, and it'll have a VBGA label on it. So it's very difficult to confuse them, and it works side by side with any other existing accounts that you have. And SharePoint will do the same thing should you decide to sync it to your computer. If you want to access things simply over the web, you can just sign into your Van Dusen account and it'll all operate completely independently. Same thing if you receive an email from somebody like Heidi sharing with you a VBGA file or folder, you'll be able to open that via your email, again, without it clashing with your existing OneDrive account. So I myself have several. Also, to address Julia's question, most Google Sheets formulas convert over to OneDrive, but some Microsoft formulas do not transfer back to Google. So luckily for you, you're on the winning side of that equation. Again, I've done a couple thousand of these. I've migrated a couple thousand users. And in my experience, moving from Google to Microsoft has never been a problem. It's only moving from Microsoft to Google that causes problems for people. So we can definitely take a look at that. And if you do have any issues with those migrations, again, myself and the rest of my team will be eager to help you out with that. So again, as I mentioned before, we just went over all of the managing, sharing, creating, and accessing information from OneDrive. Now I'm going to go over to our SharePoint, and I do want to show everybody here how to access those files. And again, it is a bit of a larger learning curve here. Give me 1 second to bring up that link that I'm looking for. There it is. Perfect. Oops. Oh, it's not working. Oh, it won't let me. Yeah, something's up with my computer today. It won't let me copy paste. Very odd. All right. I'll just have to type that out then. Give me 1 second, folks. There it is. Perfect. All righty. So when I first log into SharePoint, I'm greeted with this news page here. So when I first sign in here, again, you can add news to this section. There's an activity tab down here. We have all of our documents in the bottom right-hand corner. We can gloss over all of this. We won't be using this functionality. What we want to focus on the left-hand side here is the documents folder. So to answer Janine's question, I can simply click on the three. She asked, how did I get to this screen? I can simply click on the app launcher up here with the 3x3 grid. And there is a SharePoint section underneath all apps, or I can click on VBGA files underneath shared libraries. Either one of those will work. So again, if I click on VBGA files, you can see it brings me right into the documents folder, and I have access to all of the different departments that exist inside of VBGA files. If I wanted to go again, I could go to the 3x3 grid up at the top. I can click on all apps. I can scroll down to SharePoint, and then I can access it that way. Or I can simply click on VBGA files underneath my shared libraries. So that's how I'm going to be able to get into my files here. Absolutely. Janine asks again, can we pin this in some way? So again, most folks here will have access to one or a couple of departments. So if I wanted to go ahead and share those, what I can do is click the little checkbox here, and I can add a shortcut to my files. So that's, again, a very good question, Janine. Thank you. And if anybody else has any other questions, or if Janine has any other questions, please keep them coming, because it is very valuable for everybody, including myself. So I can click the little checkbox next to my folder the same way I would in OneDrive, and I can click Add Shortcut to my files. And now you can see here it says adding shortcut to my files. And now if I go over to my files inside of my OneDrive, I now have the Board of Directors SharePoint, and I can see it's got this little link logo next to it to indicate that it's from the SharePoint file. I hope that answers your question, Janine. Okay. So I'm going to jump back over to the SharePoint file by clicking VBGA files, or by clicking the 3x3 grid and then scrolling down to SharePoint and opening that. And again, if I open it by the 3x3 grid, I'm going to be greeted by this screen, and I can simply click on Documents on the left-hand side. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a difference with the OneDrive and SharePoint, in that the OneDrive is for personal use and the SharePoint is for other use. And as I mentioned before, there may be a steep learning curve, but the good news is that there is no difference between OneDrive and SharePoint operationally. So everything I just covered inside of OneDrive, we already know it all. There's nothing else for us to learn inside of SharePoint. Everything is going to operate the exact same way. If I wanted to create a new file or folder here, I can click on New, and I can go ahead and click Folder, Word document, Excel, etc. If I wanted to manage a document, I can simply click again the 3 dots, and I can share, copy link, or manage access, or I can download, delete, etc. Now, again, The reason why I do like to pair these things together is that it's very, very, very simple for people now to understand how to manage both of these. So if you feel comfortable with OneDrive, again, obviously, I expect a little bit of information overload for everybody today. But if you begin to play around with this for about 15 minutes with a glass of wine after work today, and you begin to feel comfortable with this, you will be comfortable with SharePoint just as you will become comfortable with OneDrive. It's the same interface, it's the same control schemes. The only difference is how you use them. You should be using your OneDrive to store your private files, and you can use VBGA files for all of these departmental things. So again, I'll open up the board of directors folder here, and I can see we have all of the different departments of the board, and I'm able to go ahead and check out the Manage Access tab for the Bladel Society here, the BOD of Bladel, and I can see that it's been shared with the group BOD Bladel. If I check out the BOD engagement, I can see everybody that's in the engagement committee will have access to the engagement folder. Now, we all understand how to interact with these files. We all understand how to manage these files and share these files, but how do we get our existing files into this system? There's two ways to do it, and I'm going to show everybody today both ways of how to do it, one of them being online and one of them being on the web, on the computer. So again, some folks are going to want to just log in to portal.office.com. I'm going to throw this link here in the chat. And that is how everybody can access this system. And other folks are going to want to be able to access this on their computer. And again, no harm or foul either way you do it. It's totally personal preference, and it's up to you what you prefer. So if I wanted to access these files, and let's say I have files on a personal hard drive, or I have files on a Google Drive, or I have files anywhere else, and I would like them to be present inside of my VBGA OneDrive, I can simply click the upload button and then select files or folders. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen. Things are going to get a little bit tight here because again, I have a larger screen than most folks. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So I'm now sharing my entire screen with everybody, and you will be able to see here when I go over and I click on the upload files option, I get the option to upload a file in here. So I'm going to upload my import user template. I just double click on it, and now it's uploaded. Let's say I wanted to upload a folder. I can click upload folder. I can go over to my downloads folder. I have this accounting folder, or I can look at a long time ago, and I can upload some resumes or upload some folders. All I have to do is click on the file or folder, and I can then click the upload button. So again, in order to be able to upload files to my OneDrive or my SharePoint, I can simply click the upload button. I can select files. It comes up with all of the computer files that I have, and I can then select a resume or an Excel sheet or an entire folder on my computer, and I can simply click the upload button to send that up here. Does anybody have any, pardon?
Sorry.
Yep.
I do have a question, or I want to clarify something. So as some of our teams have files, teams that have files in Google Drive and G Suite, those will be migrated over for you because there is a format change that needs to happen between those two those two modalities. But for those that are going to be moving over their own files, whether it be from OneDrive, USB stick, desktop, hard drive, is there a maximum number of folders and subfolders that can pull over at once, or can I go in and move over everything in relation to, say, recruitment, which might include 60 documents and 3 subfolders?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so that can be really simple, a drag and drop of big hunks of stuff from one to the other.
Yeah, so again, Christine got one step ahead of me here. Christine was asking everybody, can you upload via drag and drop? And I was just loading this up here. So I've got this test folder. I can simply grab it, drag it over, and drop it in. You can see here it highlights the folders that I can put it in, or I can just leave it right there. And it says uploading one item, and here's my test folder. So again, very, very easy, folks. Very simple to move stuff in here. If you do need a hand with this stuff, again, we're happy to help you out with the drag and drops and getting things moved in. But again, very, very, very straightforward. So again, if I have a document in here I need to move in, like the Zoom folder, whatever it is, I can simply grab it. I'll do the whole documents folder. I can move it over, and again, it instantly recognizes it, and it'll give me the option to move that in there. So again, very, very easy. They've made it very straightforward. They want people using this stuff, and they've made it very simple to adopt it. So thank you again, Christine, for the good question there. Drag and drop is definitely supported, and you're going to be able to move in large files. I believe the largest file right now they limit to is 5 gigabytes, but I don't think anybody here has a 5 gigabyte file. I don't think they're doing 4K video editing and that kind of stuff. So again, for just moving over your productivity files, it's very, very, very straightforward. Does anybody have any other questions related to file management in the web before I start to demo some of the on the computer stuff for everybody quickly? Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so the next thing I'm going to show everybody, I'm just going to adjust the screen share again because I know, again, things get very small and stretched out when I share over the monitor. So I'm now sharing my file explorer here. So when I want to access things on my computer, I'm going to actually, you know what? I will share my full screen for this for a second. Let's say that I wanted to have my Van Dusen files on my computer. I want to be able to access them on my computer. I don't want to mess around with going into the internet. I just want to be able to work on them on my computer. It's how I've done it for 10 years. It's how I want to continue to do it. What you need to do is in the bottom right corner of your screen, there, if you're on Windows 10, there will be a OneDrive icon down there. And you can simply click on the OneDrive icon. And if you're somebody, I believe it was Noreen. Yep. If you're somebody like Noreen, you're used to seeing this little OneDrive icon down here. And when you click on it, it comes up, it tells you it's up to date and you're ready to go. If you needed to add this account, you can simply click on Help and Settings. You can click on Settings here. And then it says Add an Account. So I'm going to be able to simply click Add an Account. And then I'm going to be able to sign in to my vandusen.org email account. And then all of my files and folders will become accessible on my computer. So when I sign into this, and this works on Mac, this works on PC, you can download the OneDrive app to your phone. You can download the OneDrive app to your Android device or to your iPhone. It works on all the systems. All you need to do is enter in your email and your password, and I'll be sending those off to folks in the coming days here. If I wanted to access these files on my computer, people always ask me, well, how do I do that? And the way that you can access this stuff is by simply clicking on the OneDrive folder that shows up in the left-hand side of your file explorer once you sign in. So everybody should be able to see here, I have a OneDrive folder, and it's called OneDrive Umbrella IT Services. And then I have all of my files and folders inside of here. If I wanted to look at something like my SharePoint, it shows up, instead of having a little blue cloud, it has a big blue city. So I'm able to click on the city, and this would be called VBGA files. So I can tell that this is inside of my OneDrive because it's got this little tiny green check mark here next to Windows Workstation configuration. That tells me that it's synced with my OneDrive. Now, if I wanted to make an upload, and if I wanted to change this file and initiate a sync, I can simply get rid of something and make a modification to the file. And you'll notice that the little green check mark has turned into a blue sync button. And now it's got the two arrows doing the sync motion here. And after a couple of seconds, it's going to upload those changes to OneDrive. And now you can see it's converted itself to a little green check mark and it's been uploaded again. Also, if I wanted to share files from my OneDrive or SharePoint once they're on my computer, I can simply right click on them. And now I have a little OneDrive logo with a share button on it. And I can click on that. And again, I'm going to share my screen. And it comes up with the same window we saw on the internet that says anyone with the link can edit. I can enter in people's emails addresses and it'll automatically, again, fill those out for me. I can send it off. I can change the permissions the way that we looked at before. And again, there's a couple of features when I'm sharing it on my computer that aren't present on the web. And again, I think that goes back to Denise's question about Word and Excel. So OneDrive also has some more advanced features when you're using it on your computer. For example, now I can set an expiry date. So if I wanted to share this file with Stephen up until March 1st, and I wanted to set a password on it, I'm able to do that through my computer, but not on the web. So again, I won't waste too much time on that, but that's essentially how we can share files on the computer and via the web. So again, all I need to do to be able to upload files is click and drag them into either my computer folder that's syncing to OneDrive or into the web folder that I'm signed into for OneDrive. Does anybody have any? Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off, and my apologies. I'm just wondering, and I don't know if people wanted to go over that last little bit one more time, if anyone was finding that a little confusing or if that worked for all. And second, with syncing to your computer, is there anything we need to be concerned with if we aren't seeing the symbol that is blue that says syncing or green that says checked? Is there any chance or anything people should keep an eye on to ensure that it is still syncing to the cloud, that they haven't somehow disabled something or it's not live updating?
Yeah. So, yeah, I was going to ask if anybody has any questions or concerns. So if you do, please throw those into the chat for sure, and we can get back on those. And related to Heidi's question about what do you do if your OneDrive is no longer syncing to your computer, on your Mac or on your PC, they have the same solution. Restart your computer. So most likely what's going on is you're having issues with OneDrive being closed, and you can either open up the app one more time on your computer, but when you restart your computer, it'll auto start the OneDrive function. So most of the time, restarting your computer fixes any sync issues that people are having.
Thank you.
No worries. So Julia has a good question. She says, on my laptop, I have choices of quick access, OneDrive, or this PC. And it seems that these folders allow for duplicates. Not sure how to tell which file is which. And Julia, all the files are the same. So quick access is a shortcut file that shows up in the top left corner of your screen. So if you're recently accessing files or if you've pinned something, it's going to show up there. So if you're working inside of the OneDrive folder, that's going to show up in your quick access bar. You also have the OneDrive folder when you sync it to your computer. That auto populates inside of your Windows taskbar just for ease of convenience. Microsoft wants to have that front and center. They're becoming a cloud company much more than they're becoming a physical software company or a licensing company. So they're really pushing that OneDrive in the interface. That's why you see it below there. And then finally, you're seeing it under this PC because that's where they store it, in the root directory of your computer. They don't put it inside of a documents folder. They don't put it anywhere else. It's put directly inside of your user account folder, the same way your documents, your pictures, and all of these other folders and files show up under this PC. It's another root directory folder. So I hope that clears that up. Do you have any other questions about the duplicates? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, that's great, folks. So that's essentially it when it comes to OneDrive and SharePoint. Does anybody have any areas of confusion or anything that they'd like me to go over again related to sharing, creating, managing, uploading files? Okay, perfect. So I will do a bit of a dive into how these permissions work. Because again, I just want to make sure everybody kind of understands what's going on when you go into the VBGA files, because as you folks can see, I have access to board of directors, development, education, executive director, etc. I have temporary administrative permissions to this. I will be disarming this account once this migration completes, most likely 30 days from now. And then I will no longer have any access to this file. So the reason I can see all of these right now is because I have ownership permissions of everything, which I will be giving up. If I look again, as I mentioned previously, at the board of directors subfolders here, then I can see that the VBGA file owners and the board of directors have access to this. So if you go into this folder, if you're part of the engagement committee on the BOD, then you will see the engagement folder and you will not see anything else. If you do sign on to this web page with your VBGA email account and you are unable to see files here, there is a recent bug that just came up with Microsoft. So if you cannot see things and it says you need permission to view this file or folder, please let myself and Heidi know, and Heidi, not or Heidi, myself and Heidi know, and we'll be able to resolve that for you very quickly. I have a couple of workarounds for that. But you will be able to go into the board of directors folder and you will see the folders that you have been given permission to see. It's the same thing for the development committee. It's the same thing for the marketing and communications team. Same thing for membership. Same thing for volunteer engagement. You're going to be able to open up this web page and you will see the folders that you've been granted permission to see, nothing else. So I hope that explains the permission thing to everybody. If you want to have this saved onto your computer, the same way that Noreen would like, I'm assuming she does this with her personal business. With the OneDrive, all you need to do to be able to see your OneDrive folder is sign into your OneDrive account the way that I showed everybody. If you want to get this on, if you want to get the SharePoint onto your computer, you need to click the sync button. And then it's going to tell you it's opening your OneDrive and it needs to sync to your computer. That's it. So again, I'm happy to help anybody out with these. We're going to be writing out some instructions for everybody. And I have a reference video that explains all of this as well. It's about 8 minutes long. So if anyone has any questions or they want to review anything, I'll put that link to that YouTube video in the description here. And if you guys have a spare 8 minutes, you can review that video and it'll answer any questions that you have. And it's about a 2.5 hour long video. And I explain absolutely everything about Microsoft 365 inside of it. But there is an 8-minute section related to OneDrive that you can just skip right over to. I can see Roseanne has a very good question as well. So she's on a Mac and she uses Gmail instead of Outlook and is asking, will this be a problem? Also, I don't see a way to upload OneDrive to my computer. So for Roseanne, I'm going to be sending out some instructions later if she would like to install OneDrive on her computer. So she can download the application for Mac, she can install it, she can sign into her VBGA email account, and she'll be able to operate it that way. If you don't want to do that and you want to just access these things from the web, Roseanne, you're going to be able to just go to portal.office.com, sign into your account, and everything will be accessible over the web. And let's say even you want to simplify things even further and you don't want to be accessing files, you just want to access your VBGA emails and you want to be notified when people are sharing things with you. We're going to be able to share we're going to be able to forward emails from your VBGA account to your personal email that you're already using. So again, to summarize there, if you're on a Mac and you want to have these files on your computer directly, there is an app in the Microsoft OneDrive, in the Apple App Store that you're going to be able to download, or you can access them through the web using portal.office.com. This works on Mac, it works on PC, it works on Android, it works on iPhone, it works on everything. And if you wanted to use Gmail instead of Outlook, you'll just have to have a secondary window open. And I will show you what Outlook looks like next to Gmail. You can have both windows signed in at the same time. They don't conflict with each other. It's very, very, very straightforward to have both of those open. I hope that answers your question, Roseanne. Let me know if there's anything else that I can answer.
There is something that I'd like to address. We have the option. It's an option to access it directly from your computer, but you can also exclusively go from your
from the web,
the web, which is honestly what I've been doing over the last year. I haven't downloaded anything to my computer. I find it works very well for me. All the files work seamlessly. It feels to me like one less step. And for those who might access it less readily, such as some of the board members who may not want to congest their personal computers or devices, you can also just go to portal.office. whatever that Jake said.
.com, yeah.
.com.
Yeah. And again, it totally depends on your use case scenario. Again, some folks, they like to have it on their computer. Some folks like to use it to the web. Some folks like to use it on their iPad. And again, there's usage cases for each scenario. You're not really gaining or losing anything on either side of those. Again, you may lose the ability to send an expiry link for somebody. But there are, again, you can set a calendar appointment and remove their permissions on that date anyways. And that's it, really. If everyone is okay, we can go ahead and move on to Microsoft Teams. Does anybody have any final questions before we move away from the file management and file structure? I can make a couple of closing statements on SharePoint one more time before we move on, if Heidi, you'd like that.
Sounds great to me.
Okay, perfect. So again, before we move on and we drop OneDrive and we drop SharePoint, you can go into your OneDrive. You can access that via portal.office.com. You're going to have all of your files up here. If you needed to access anything from the SharePoint site, you're going to be able to access that by clicking on the 3 dots, the 3x3 grid, going into the SharePoint application and accessing things. When you're inside of the SharePoint application, you're going to have access to your department's folders that you've been granted permission to. You're going to be able to work inside of these folders, drag your files in, create the directories, share things with your team, immediately start collaborating and working right away. All of the files in here are going to be backed up. You're going to be able to access those through the version history. And if you're looking for a additional backup service, we can provide that. We recommend it. But again, it's a much less severe thing to worry about now. Instead of there's 16 USB drives and 4 computers we haven't turned on in 3 months, and that's where all of our accounting files are. We now want to centralize everything. We want to empower everybody through communication and collaboration. And again, in 3 to 6 months, I feel like everyone will be using this and will be comfortable with it. There is a 2-week adoption period where it is a little bit janky for some folks to get used to, especially if you're used to using Gmail and these other applications. But as I mentioned previously, over 2,000 people that I've worked with on this, what they do is they have a glass of wine, they have some water, they go for a walk, they come back after they're relaxed a little bit, and then they open up these files and folders. They do their thing, they play around, and they go, okay, what is this? The new button? Okay, new folder, new Word, new Excel. Cool. If I want to upload this, I can do files and folders. Okay. I can share. Okay. What is this recent thing again? Oh, it's the things I was working on. Okay, that's cool. And if you just play around with it like that for 15 minutes, most people end up teaching me things, and it becomes very intuitive and easy to get into. So again, the best thing that you can do, especially if you're kind of getting that nervous, overwhelmed feeling looking at all this, is just open it up when you have a spare 15 minutes. Take your time. Again, no pressure. It's super, super intuitive. It's very friendly to use. And I'm always available to answer any questions that you have. And I'm sure Heidi would be happy to either help or pass those questions along to me as well, if you want to ask her anything. So I don't want to speak for Heidi, but I hope that she's okay with that. And that's it. I'm going to move on to Teams now, if everyone's okay with that. And just last time I'll ask, I always like to make sure everyone's okay before we move on. If anyone has any other questions, speak now, forever hold your peace, related to OneDrive or SharePoint. Perfect. Yeah. See, Lee knows the glass of wine concept. There you go. Perfect. All righty. Cool. So we'll move on to Microsoft Teams now. So again, Microsoft Teams is going to be a very good way for you guys to be able to communicate and collaborate. Again, not necessary. This is an add-on. This is a cherry on the sundae thing. This is not something that's mandatory. This is not something that we're going to be watching the adoption on. This is just something that Microsoft includes. I've seen using this tool combined with forms. The BC firefighters were able to get a lot of their engagement from their members, their 4,000 members, to go from 5 to 10% to over 85% consistently when it comes to events, when it comes to quizzes, voting, all these sort of things. So again, if we have volunteers, if we have the public, if we have internal board members, and we're trying to just enhance the way that people are communicating, you can either use Microsoft Teams on your smartphone, on the web, however you want. It tremendously reduces the complexity of communication. You're able to share files inside of here. You're able to do video chatting inside of here. You don't need to pay for Zoom fees. We're able to have a conversation just like this with people inside of Teams. It even has goofy little overlays the same way that Zoom does and all these kind of things. And Microsoft is pouring over $2 billion a year with a B into Microsoft Teams. They're very much pushing this. So I'll very briefly go through Teams again, just to display some of the functionality for people. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. There's no pressure here. I just wanted to very briefly touch on this before we dive into Outlook. So in terms of Microsoft Teams, it operates the exact same way as the other programs. I can download the app onto my smartphone or onto my computer, or I can just use it on the web. So I'm going to open it up on the web, and it looks identical to the way it works on the computer. There is no difference. I can enter a name, email, group, or tag that I want to chat with. So again, if I wanted to talk to everybody inside of the Blue Dell Society, for example, I think I have to do the BOD Dell would be the email address. I haven't emailed them before. I think I have to check out what the exact group name was there. Let me find that really quickly. Bad example. I should have prepped for that ahead of time. My apologies, folks. Give me 1 second. Perfect. Okay. All right, here we go. So there we go. We'll do adult education. So if I wanted to share this out with adult education, and I create this group, it's going to automatically, again, I think it's because of my web browser, it blocks absolutely everything. So I'll just share it with Heidi. I'll keep it simple. I can share Teams groups with groups of folks if I wanted to. Unfortunately, again, my computer is very locked down. I should have a demo machine for this, so I apologize for the mix up. But you can create chats with groups or with individuals. So I'm going to share this with Heidi here. And I've got Heidi in my group chat. I can add Steven as well. And I can go ahead and say hello to Stephen and Heidi, and I'm going to be able to instantly be able to chat with them about whatever I wanted to chat with them about. It's the same thing if I wanted to talk to a board of directors group, or if I wanted to talk to volunteer engagement, whoever I wanted. I can see Stephen's already responded inside of here. Heidi, the same thing. If I wanted to, I can go ahead and start a video chat up in the top right corner. I can start a voice call. We can all have a conference call. I can add different files in here if I wanted to. And I can go back over to the chat, and I can see Stephen is typing down below here. I can go ahead and write out things. So if I wanted to on my iPad, you can actually start to write out things on your notepad. If I need to send an urgent message, I can click the little exclamation mark. And if I wanted to go ahead and send off a standard message, I can do that as well. If I needed to attach any files, I can click the little paperclip. And you can see here, it's the same thing. It's all integrated tools. I'm able to attach a file from OneDrive, and I can just see in here, all of the files inside of my OneDrive are available. So I can ask them, did you see this very important file from earlier? And then I can send over that attached file, and they can work on it right away. There's no need for me to be emailing. There's no 6 different versions of the document. It all ties back into OneDrive. You can even send GIFs for it. So again, there's many different ways to send little goofy things here. Stephen was saying I'm a good teacher, so I can send this over to him. And again, makes things a little bit nicer. And Heidi is showing off the React feature here. I can hover over different messages. I can like them and do all these kind of goofy things. So again, very, very easy to use. It's a good chat platform. I recommend everybody use it just in terms of communication. It's not mandatory at all. And there's 2 more features that I want to show off and the main reasons why I'm pushing this. Number 1 is next to the little GIF option, I have the ability to create a meeting. So I can go ahead and schedule a meeting, and I can call this BOD review. And I can see that I have Heidi and I have Stephen in on this. If I wanted to add in, again, I'm going to pick on Paul again here. Then I can add Paul in and anybody else that I wanted to add to this meeting. What this will do is this will actually look at my calendar and Stephen's calendar and Paul's calendar and Heidi's calendar, and it will suggest an ideal time for us to meet. And it can already see here that we're all busy until 4 o'clock. So it's saying the best time for us to have this meeting is 4 o'clock to 4:30. So you can imagine, if I don't know the size of the departments by my memory, so I apologize. But if you have a department like BOD finance, then or engagement, and you have 7 people inside of that, it's very difficult to call everybody and message them and, okay, you're free Friday at 2 and you're good at 3 and blah, blah. You can just have people go into this team schedule meeting. It'll tell you, nope, sorry, everyone's busy till Tuesday at 3. And then you can just go ahead and schedule a meeting for Tuesday at 3. So again, 3 to 6 months from now, when people do adopt this software, it makes things very, very easy. And to answer Roseanne's question, she asked, does Teams only interface with calendars if everyone is on Outlook? Yes, it does. But there is a way to share your personal calendars with your Outlook calendars so that it will show that you're busy. There's no private data coming through, but you can have it integrate in a way where it will tell Teams that you're busy. No one can see if it's a dentist appointment or a graduation, or if you just want to go sit in the sun. It's going to just tell people that you're busy during those times. And again, that's something that I'd like to see done over the next year. It's not at all on the roadmap. It's not been formally discussed, but it is something that's possible. And I just kind of wanted to plant the seed there so people will know that that's something that can happen with very little effort. that can be coordinated in very little time with one little instruction sheet that has 2 or 3 steps on it, so that we can all have this level of collaboration and this ease of agendaing or calendaring, whatever word you want to use. So I'm now able to go ahead and send off this meeting invite for whatever time that I want, and we would all be able to join the Teams meeting. So again, if I create this calendar event, I can see BOD review, I can join it. It's going to ask for permission to view my calendar, sorry, my camera and my microphone, and it's saying they're busy because I'm using them in Zoom. And then I can just join this meeting. And again, Stephen and Heidi can join the meeting as well. And we're all going to be able to have a Teams chat instead of needing to use Microsoft Zoom. I'm sorry, instead of using Zoom, we can use Microsoft Teams. So again, it makes things very, very, very easy and integrated. I can share files from OneDrive during the meeting. It can go through all of our calendars and it can determine that we already have a board meeting at this time, so we can all just hop into Teams. We don't need to be using Zoom. There's lots of different benefits with that little schedule button. Now, the final thing I wanted to show everybody is related to Teams. So again, Microsoft, like I said, they make things unnecessarily complicated, and they've decided to call this the Teams section. So again, thank you, Microsoft, for that. I like to call it channels because it's a little bit easier instead of teams. But if we look at the channels that I've created for everybody here again, we have the board of directors up here at the top, and we have a general chat. If I wanted, I could go ahead and create a sub chat called engagement. So I'm going to start off very lightly here. We can see we have board of directors, development, education, etc. And inside of the board of directors, I can start a new conversation. So again, I just had a little BOD review thing with Heidi and Steven. So I'll go ahead and create a BOD review discussion. And people can come in here and they can start to respond to this. So I'm going to go ahead and click the 3 dots. Again, if you ever want to do anything inside of Microsoft, all you have to do is click the 3 dots. I'm going to add members to this. So I'm going to add Steven and Heidi. And they'll now be able to see this team underneath the teams over here. And I can say, what did you think of the review meeting? And everybody can discuss this topic. It's very good for individual topics that people need to discuss. Maybe there's an event or a fundraiser, or maybe there's a recruiting that's going on, or volunteer performance, whatever discussion you want to have. And people can have that discussion here. And we can have another discussion related to BOD finance and all of these kind of things. So now that I've created these, a couple of things that I want to highlight is the ability to integrate this again with SharePoint, etc. I can click the little plus button up here, and I can add in a document library. I can add in a Microsoft Excel sheet. I can add in a website, and I can add in many, many, many other things, hundreds of options. So I'm just going to add in the SharePoint document library, and I'm going to specifically add in the documents folder that's inside of the VBGA library. So again, I'm going to go ahead and select documents. See, my browser's fighting me again here. We'll just go with this for now. Yeah, there you go. Now it's working. Okay. Again, my apologies, folks. So I'm going to call this SharePoint. And now I'm able to discuss this system with Heidi and Steven. And we can talk about whatever we need to talk about. And as we finish this meeting, I can click on SharePoint up in the top corner here, and everything is accessible directly from this Teams chat. So you can imagine if I have a board of directors engagement chat, I can have the engagement folder right here. I can have the working documents open. I can have all of the contacts and the website that we need to reference all inside of this Teams chat. So again, nothing important to talk about today. I just wanted to show everybody these do exist. They're here if people are ready to adopt them, and we can address this later on. But I did just want to highlight some of the things that Teams can do before we move on to Outlook. Heidi, yep.
Yeah, no, that's some great work. And I want to echo what Stephen said. You're doing a great job leading this, and I thank you so much. In the Teams area, it's in general, it's just so easy to share and collaborate, which is a really wonderful ability for us to work more effectively. And I'm sure it's on all of our minds, the importance for reflecting on privacy and confidentiality, that in terms of sharing whole folders, I think that would probably require substantial reflection If the people in this chat already have access to that SharePoint folder, then of course. But otherwise, I personally tend to share a single file at a time and reflect as that person needed, and consider for myself that you only share information with those who must have it in order to do the work.
Yeah, and we can set up alerts so that if somebody shares 60,000 files with somebody outside of the vandusen.org domain, we'd catch that right away. So that's something that we can add in later in terms of security.
Thank you.
Yep. Alrighty, so I'm going to move off of Teams, and we're just going to take a look at Outlook here. So again, most folks will be familiar with this. If you're not familiar with it, that's perfectly fine. Again, we're going to just take a look at the left-hand side here, as I like to do. And we got that review meeting coming up here. So again, it's all integrated. It's very nice. I can go ahead and snooze the alert. I can click on it. It opened up a different window for me that says join Teams meeting. People won't be able to see that, but it does bring up another meeting with a big blue button. And it just lets me join that Teams meeting again. So again, you can see why I'm kind of reminding everybody that all of this stuff is integrated, and they've done a very, very good job injecting about $4 billion into this so far. So what I want to do inside of this demo right now for Outlook is just take a look at what's going on here. So on the left-hand side, I've got my favorites. So I've got my inbox, clutter, sent items, and drafts. If I click on inbox, it shows me all of my inbox stuff. If I click on clutter, it shows me like spam, those kind of things you get for mail performance and all that. If I click on sent items, then I'm able to see everything that was sent out of this account. If I click on drafts, it's going to show me all my email drafts. Nothing crazy. It's an email service. Scrolling down further, I can see the folders that are in here. Again, inbox, drafts, sent, deleted, junk, nothing crazy. Scroll down further, I can see Acculogic, groups, and all the other things we have going on. And that's it with the email. Again, I can look at things. They're in here. If I click on an email, I get the option to reply. I can reply to all. I can forward it. I can delete it. I can archive it. I can put it in junk. And that's really it. If I want to create a new message, I can click the new message button up in the top left corner. I can address it to whoever I want. I can add a subject. I can say OneDrive files for a subject. Oops, that was CC. And again, I can go over and I can select the attachment file right here. So again, I'm emailing Steven. It's for OneDrive files. I can click the attach button. And look at that. The two files that I was just collaborating on with Steven, it allows me to send those over to him. I can browse this computer. I can browse the cloud locations, or I can upload and share the file. So I'm going to go ahead and browse cloud locations. I've got my recent files that I've worked on. I've got my files that I work on regularly, and I've got my shared with me option. So again, I'll go ahead and just add this Heidi collaboration files, and it gives me the option to insert the links. I can share them as OneDrive links, or I can attach them as a copy. And again, we're trying to get away from this old-fashioned email system of sending 18 copies of a file back and forth. What we really want to focus on is just inserting them as OneDrive links. So I'm going to go ahead and share as OneDrive links, and then Steven will be able to just click on these files and open them. Very, very simple. And that's it. Again, if I want to encrypt the email, I can click on encrypt. If I want to discard the email, I can discard it. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions about email before we move on to calendar? Okay, perfect. And as I mentioned previously as well, if you don't want to be using this email because you've got 6 emails and you don't want to check a 7th one, you can just let us know in the response to the email instructions that I'm going to be sending folks. And we will set this up to auto forward to your existing email account. So you just let us know what you prefer, and we'll make it work either way. Again, there's no pressure to have to add another email account to your phone. We can just set up email forwarding if you prefer that. Or if you prefer, you can just add this to your phone and add this to your computer. So I'm going to move on to calendar. And the way you can jump between them here is in the bottom left. I've got my mail icon. I've got the calendar icon. I've got these 2 human-shaped icons here that I can click on. And then I've got files and to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the calendar icon. And now I can see inside of here, that noise is in my nightmares. I can go ahead and look in the top left corner, and I've got my February month. I've got the different calendars that are added in here. So I've got the education department, I've got the VBGA staff out of office. And thank you, Roseanne. I will definitely have to get that from you again inside. Oh, no, never mind. You got to run. So thank you, Roseanne. I'm going to add that to my notes here, and I will make sure to set up that email forwarding for you. Perfect. So we'll see her later. So again, in the calendar interaction here, I can see we've got the month up in the top left. I can jump around to different days depending on what I want to do. I can add a calendar if I want to add one. It gives me a whole bunch of options there. We'll get in that in a minute. I can look at my existing calendars. So calendar, education department, VBGA staff out of office, people's calendars, self-guided bookings, etc. If I want to add a calendar, again, I can see I have a group calendar down here. So if I wanted to add a calendar, I can add personal calendars. I can create a blank calendar. I can add it from directory. I can subscribe from the web. I can upload files, and I can choose different sports teams and leagues. For example, I am very much into the Greek national division of basketball. So if I want to follow the Chalargos, Rhodos, and the AEK, which of course I know everyone here does, I can subscribe to these calendars. And just like that, they're now added into my VBGA calendar, and I will never miss another Chalargos, Rhodos game. So again, very easy to add calendars. On a more serious note, you can add in board calendars and have those be shared with everybody. We can add in, for example, the Bladel Docent calendar will be added in here and shared with those members. And it makes it very, very easy, again, for everybody to understand when is the next meeting. You can click one button and you can see right here, join. I can just click on join and it brings up Teams and it automatically brings me into that Teams meeting. So again, very much simplifies things, and you can follow things like the Canucks and whatever else you want to follow in here. I hope that explains all the calendar stuff. Heidi, is there anything else you wanted me to touch on in terms of calendaring?
So of course, we would only have access to calendars of the departments or groups that we are a part of.
Yes. Yeah. You're not, there's some public ones like VBGA staff out of office for everybody, but yeah, you'll only have the ones that are belonging to your department or group. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Other than those, if I wanted to create a calendar event, I can just click anywhere and you can see add a title, and I can invite attendees, and I can choose the day and time. I can search for a room or location. So again, at a later date, maybe we continue with this adoption, and I can start to add in all the different offices that exist. And I could say, oh, the library, or oh, add this to the main admin office or the visitor center, or anything else that we have in terms of locations and rooms when COVID's all over. And I can turn on this little Teams meeting button here, and then everyone is going to be able to join this Teams meeting. And then I can see here, that little join button is going to come up in a second as well. Again, my browser is blocking 51 different parts of this website right now, 53 things. So it does glitch it out a little bit. Alrighty, so that's it with calendars. Oh, I can see the guys are playing. The AEK is playing on Saturday now, so I can catch that Greek basketball game. Perfect. Alrighty, so I'm going to jump over to contacts, and we can take a look inside of here. And that's really it, folks. In terms of contacts, again, we can add in our contacts if we want them. Most people will not be using this at all, but if I wanted to, I can add contacts in there. If I want to add contact lists, I can create those. That's lists of different people. Again, BOD engagement, volunteer engagement, these kind of things. Looking at the different groups and directories that exist here, I can take a look at all of these and I can see what exists. And again, that's it. It's just a way to manage your contacts. So again, on the left-hand side, I can look at my contacts. I can add a contact. Again, it auto-populates. I don't need to create a contact for Heidi, but if I wanted to do that, I can. Add in her phone number, work, everything like that, create it, and then she's going to be in here. But again, it's already added in as part of the directory. You don't need to manage your contacts, but I just figured I'd highlight it anyways. People that are coming from Gmail may want to know this, and that's it, really. It's just the mail, the calendar, the contacts. Those are the big ones that I wanted to focus on, and that's it. We kind of made it to the end here. Again, I appreciate everybody kind of taking the time to go through this. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything that they would like me to touch on in a little bit more detail? I want to go over the next steps here. moving forward. And Julia has a great question that I can address after I just take Heidi's question really quickly.
Certainly. We spoke about creating teams' email lists that align with different group members of the Board of Directors Sustainability Committee, which would be a different email list than the Board of Director Finance Committee. Where will we find those email lists?
Is that one of the groups that I created? Is that on our spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a group inside of the Microsoft Admin Center here. So, and if I open this up, I have a whole list of groups here. This is kept private. They're private groups. So if I go into groups, what was the one you were looking for exactly? Sorry, stewardship and sustainability.
As an example, I mean, all of those groups, I believe, wanted email lists. So I'm wondering if I'm a member of the finance committee, where do I go to then contact the rest of my finance friends?
Yeah, you would just email bodfinance@vandusen.org.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, for example, if I go into my Outlook here and I type out an email and I type out BOD. There you go. You can see it comes up already. So there's engagement, stewardship, JOA steering, executives, finances right there, resource development, everybody. So all you have to do is just type out BOD and it brings up all the board of directors. And it's the same thing if I wanted to do Marcom. I have Marcom development, education, membership, all these kind of things. So again, we can either send out a mailing list to everybody. I can send out a screenshot with all these, Heidi, however you want to do it. We can make sure people know, but at the end of the day, it's just BOD. You can type in your department. That'll come up with it for the most part. Volunteer will show volunteers. Plant sale will come up with coordinators and volunteers. Membership comes up with a bunch. Marcom education comes up with a bunch. Development comes up with a bunch. BOD, etc. You're muted, Heidi. Heidi, you're muted. Sorry, I can't hear you. Oh.
As I understand, they should align with the titles of the files that you have access to in SharePoint.
No.
Okay.
So the email group is created and I've assigned it to the SharePoint file. So the way that works is, for example, we'll look at board of directors. I've got BOD Bladell, and then in terms of the file here, it's BOD no space Bladell. So there are differences and there can be differences. It doesn't cause a problem if I give adult education access to BOD Bladell. There's no problem that will come up of that other than obviously the operational problem with that. But if I have BOD Bladell and I look at manage access to see who has access to it, it's BOD-Bladell. But that is simply the, let me bring up the permissions here. It's the domain group.
Certainly.
So it's bodbladell@vandusen.org is the email account. But again, it's for the BOD space Bladell, even though there's no hyphen in it. So again, it doesn't need to be a mirror copy.
Yeah, but it seems a little similar for most if someone can't recall.
Super similar. Yeah, they're very similar, but I just didn't want to say they're absolutely identical.
Most certainly. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Julia has a really good question, but I just want to make sure we're all good in terms of the groups. That answers the question. Okay, so Julia is asking about forms. So in terms of Google Forms, that's actually my favorite app, and I'm glad you brought it out. I had to remove it from the presentation. I can open up all apps, and then I can take a look at forms right here. So again, you click the 3 dots, the 3x3 grid. You can go over to all apps, and then here's forms right here. So again, if you're doing any sort of event or fundraising, recruitment, whatever, you can go over and create a new form. And when I create this form, I can call it whatever I want. So we'll call it VBGA forms. I can enter a description for it. I can add a new choice, text, rating, date, Likert, file upload, net promoter score, or section. So I'll add in a new section here and we'll call this BOD. And I'll add in a new choice and I'll just say, how likely are you to fill out this form? And then you can see here the AI automatically kicks in, and the AI says, are you very likely, somewhat likely, neither likely, somewhat unlikely, or very unlikely to fill out this form? So it's all automatically built in by the AI, and I can just click the add all button. And now this form has already been created for me. If I want to add another question, I can add text, and I can say, tell me about the last time you filled out this form. And it just gives me the option if it's a long answer or if it's required. So I'll say, yes, it's a long answer. If I want to add in a rating, I can say, how excited are you to fill out this form? And then again, you get the 5-star option. And you can do the same thing. You can add a date, like hertz, all this kind of stuff. So again, very, very easy to be able to add all this in. And that's it. Unfortunately, no, the Google Forms will not be converted to Microsoft Forms. Those are hosted in different directories. So it's the one thing that we can't convert is the forms. There may be a way to do so, but I don't know about it at this time. I apologize for that. So yeah, Julia, that answers your question there. I can see Christine put in a question. She wants to be able to review and approve Word documents that are created by Atsuko. So she says that, let's say if they have her signature on it, that are okay, let's say, and have my signature on it such that our auditors know if my signature is on it, I'm the only one who could have added that. Okay, so yeah. So Christine's basically asking if there's a document that's created and it's got her signature on it, she wants to be able to audit that to ensure that she's the only person that put her signature on it. So Christine, the way you can do that is if we go back over to, let's say, SharePoint, and I create a document inside of here. So again, new Word document, and we're going to call it Christine's signature. Let's say that this is your signature. Then I can go ahead and update this and call it Christine's signature. Let's say that you wanted to see what was done to this document and you wanted to look at the audit trail to make sure that somebody else didn't add your signature to this. You're going to be able to go in here and click this button, click on version history, and it'll show you all the versions of the document before it had your signature on it. And you're going to be able to go ahead and see when it was added and who added it. So if somebody did fraudulently add your signature, this tracks that behavior and you will be able to hold that person accountable for that fraud. Now, the other way we can look at this outside of the Word document is if I go outside here, I click on this document, and I click the little I button up here in the top right corner. I call this the babysitting tab, or the activity tab is what it's formally known as. I can click on this and I can see here that Jake edited this file a few minutes ago, and I'm able to look at that inside of there to see who made those changes. So again, if you do want to look at what was done inside of here, you will be able to see who edited it, when they edited it, and if somebody that you don't approve of was accessing this, we need to review the security permissions on the file, because no one outside of your core group should be able to access files in SharePoint, and nobody but yourself should be able to access your files outside of OneDrive. So it's very important to keep those things in mind. And again, there is this full audit trail here that can be used to track malicious activity like that. And again, I hope that answers your question. Please let me know if it does not. Elise has another good question. So he's saying, many of our volunteers have email addresses with Gmail, TELUS, etc. Will they log into Microsoft Outline / SharePoint with their personal email addresses? And Elise, I have a early Christmas present for everybody here. I have created a vandusen.org email account for everyone, and you will need to use those to access these systems. We will be able to set up email forwarding if you don't have any interest in using these systems and you just want to receive notifications and communications, but you will need to sign in one time in your web browser to be able to access these, or you can download the files to your computer and access them on your computer, again, whatever your preference is. And I will be sending everybody a one-page instruction sheet instructing you how to get this stuff on your phone, how to get it on your Mac, how to get it on your PC or how to access it over the web, as well as how to sign into your account with your password. So again, I will be sending that over the next couple of days here. I'm going to be working with Heidi on that, and you'll get all that information shortly. That's a very good question. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, Julia asks as well, can anyone, the public, fill in the form that we create? Can the results be shared privately? And the answer to that is yes, anyone in the public can fill out the form. The firefighters are beginning to use this for recruiting. They're beginning to use this for fundraising. They're beginning to use this for online sales and surveys to get closer to their community. You can fill all that out publicly. And you can indeed click a button to export the results of your form to a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet to be analyzed. No worries. Does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, chit-chatting here. Okay. All righty. Heidi, do you have anything that you want to go over before we start wrapping it up?
I want to thank everyone for their time today. I would really strongly encourage people, as Jake said, to take some time next week to putter around and work through this. We will be sharing this training recorded with all of those who will need to access SharePoint. And I'd encourage those of you who felt that things moved a little bit quickly to go through and watch again or watch segments again. I appreciate that there will be a learning curve in some areas, and much of what was shared is going to add efficiency and collaboration, especially to the staff. But I appreciate there's some people on the call who may not need to take advantage of all the tools at this time that were shared, and that's okay. We're grateful that you joined us, and we're here to support you and make sure that that transition is indeed smooth. So do stay tuned. Next week, you'll receive a few things from us, a link to the recorded training, as Jake said, an email with directions on how to log in to SharePoint. And for the board, I believe Paul, in the next while, or somehow will be working with the different committees to determine how to move their files in and what that looks like. Over the weekend, staff departments with files in Google Drive and G Suite will be migrated over by Jake. And next week, departments who do not have files in Google or G Suite but elsewhere will drag and drop their files in. And just as I said to the directors on a call earlier, but some of you are a department of one, once you believe those files are migrated over to SharePoint, please do take a proper check, double check, triple check. Not every file, but just make sure that things look solid. And then we will be deleting files from where you once had them. So I do want leads from each department or departments of one to email me and say, yes, files are moved. I've double checked, things look good. And then we will make sure the files that were once stored in random places are no longer there and they are securely in SharePoint.
Heidi, and I'd just like to say to the board members on the call, I'd appreciate if you took the time to spend a couple of weeks fooling around with this. And if you happen to be a committee chair, there's a basic structure created for each committee. And if you feel the urge or the willingness to try it, you could create the appropriate file folders for your committee's activities and just sort of start getting things going and see how it works out.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to add one more link into the chat for everybody. And that's going to be the YouTube link here. So if anyone does have any questions about this stuff, a much younger me uploaded a video about this when the quarantine first started. I used to go around all my clients and do this stuff once a month. So if you do want a reference document, like Heidi said, if you feel like things went a little bit too quickly, I do apologize for that. But you will be able to click the link that I just sent you, and it's going to open up right away to the OneDrive section of this video. And this OneDrive section is about 8 minutes long, and I explain everything that I just went over. If you scroll down here on YouTube, you'll see that I have a description here that I've opened. So I'm going to refresh the page just so everybody kind of goes to the same area. So if you were to go to the link, it'll open up just like this. And what I'm going to do is be able to click the show more button down here. And I'm going to be able to go through all of the different areas of Microsoft 365. So again, I'm going over training, getting organized, users, resources, OneDrive, SharePoint, forms, Connect, bookings, planner, to do. So if you are curious, like I noticed that Julia had a couple of good questions about forms. Let's say that people are interested in looking at planner, or people are interested in learning a little bit more about teams or security threats, or any of this super, super sexy fun stuff, you're able to go ahead and hop into the video there and learn a little bit more there. But again, just for those that are a little bit overwhelmed, you can go on and click on OneDrive, and it's going to bring up the OneDrive section. And I'm going to run everybody through what OneDrive looks like, how to access files, how to share them, all the same stuff we went over today. And you can watch this a million times at your leisure. And that's it. So you'll have that resource there for you. So in the meantime, please just keep an eye out for the link that I'm going to be sending everybody, and the one pager that I'm going to be sending everybody related to your access to the new SharePoint site, with instructions, again, how to get it on your computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC, how to get these emails and files on your Android or iPhone, and how to access everything through the web. So again, I'd like to thank everybody again for taking the time today to come out for this. I know, again, it's not super fun on a Friday, but it is nice to see everybody. I hope you found it productive. And if you do have any feedback for me, again, please let me know. And if you have any last minute questions, feel free to throw those into the chat.
Just want to take this opportunity to thank Jake and Heidi for the hours and hours of work and planning that has gone into all of this. It's really been an amazing effort, as well as Paul, who has participated in many of these discussions. Thank you to all the board members, especially who joined this afternoon and taking time out of a sunny Friday afternoon. And to all of our staff, thank you for joining us, and everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks, Stephen and Jake and Heidi. See you later.
Thank you all.